I have a background in activism. A lot of you know that, and it's this kind of work. So I was adjacent to these people. I was in law school. I did not go to Standing Rock. AOC famously says she was inspired to be an activist at Standing Rock. I don't know. I believe her, whatever. But there was way, way, way more people than that who stayed out there for a long time. And for Native youth, it was a really big deal because tons of tribes were coming together, welcoming in this like very collective protest against a big corporation putting a pipeline through their underneath actually one of their lakes. So it was about water rights. It was about clean water. It was about pipelines, but it was also about jobs. Pipeline jobs are decent. They're good jobs in that they pay well. They're not long-term jobs for career wise if you want to stay in one place. Of course, working on a pipeline, working oil rigs, it's a great career. It's dangerous. It's hard work. You can make a lot of money, but it's not in the same place. It's not localized. It's very much it's transient, right? So it's good jobs in one respect for some people and advocates. It's also not great jobs for other people and advocates. I guess the legal answer is always it depends. But the biggest thing in I think in this is that it was about public protest, right? So it was about thousands and thousands of people coming together and protesting against a very large company, an $80 billion company that builds pipelines to bring power to regular people. So in that respect, it's also about everybody. It's about all of us. This lawsuit and this Standing Rock protest was about regular people who need energy. You know, I like energy. I like to turn on the heater and have power and heat come through my vents. And that's also what this is about. So it's one of those things where it's hard to be against natural gas pipelines, but also want to live in a home that's easy to heat. It was also about mineral rights, and the Army Corps of Engineers had used a law, 1923 Mineral Rights Act, to say that the Dakota Access Pipeline could go below the water, that the native tribe that the Sioux did not have rights to the land below their water. That was something that this corporation could take through the rights of the Army Corps of Engineers could give them the license to go under the river or the lake rather and put the pipeline through. So there was that issue, but it was also about, like Bernie said, people who wanted sustainable energy and we shouldn't be building pipelines. But I'll tell you, one of the people who funded the anti-pipeline work was Warren Buffett. Why was Warren Buffett funding the Standing Rock protests? Because Warren Buffett has huge stake in train companies and he wants to deliver oil on trains. So it wasn't just about native rights. It wasn't just about the environment. I mean, for me, it was, right? I'm about clean water and I'm about tribal sovereignty. So I thought if they didn't want this construction project going through their land, then they had the right to say, you know, they had the right to say so. I'm also about civil disobedience. So I'll finish with this, and I'm going to show you some pictures and then bring in my guests and let them talk for a while about this case and what they think about the jury verdict. But how is Greenpeace involved? A lot of us said that because nobody really, they weren't a major organizer. Greenpeace is never a major organizer. Greenpeace has a lot of resources. So they will come into these protests and they will drop a lot of resources on the protest. So what was it that Greenpeace contributed that made them such a huge target for this particular lawsuit? Aside from Energy Transfer Partners wanting to shut down free speech, it's called a SLAPP lawsuit. They wanted to slap down public opinion. That we know. And that's what corporations do all the time. So this was what we call a SLAPP lawsuit. But Greenpeace also did provide material aid to the protests, and that caused Energy Transfer Partners a ton of damage. Today, I spoke to a Native Indigenous human rights attorney who was at Standing Rock, and I cannot say her name. She's a friend. She's a client. And I called her and I was like, what is this verdict about? What is going on here? And she actually said she was very critical of, she was super, super critical of Greenpeace. And she was, hold on. She was very critical of Greenpeace because they did something that definitely will get them sued. And I'm going to show you a picture of what it was. this is really the crux. Not only was Greenpeace was sued for defamation, right? They were part of this work to make Energy Transfer Partners look bad, but y'all are gonna love this. Greenpeace, if you can see, let me make myself small. Greenpeace is really on the hook because they provided money. Do you see these arm irons that the guys are connected with on the ground? Greenpeace bought something like $90,000 or $45,000. I don't know, 90 sleeping irons. And I wasn't taking notes, but Greenpeace spent tens of thousands of dollars to buy these so that as a part of the peaceful protest, as a part of the civil disobedience, which was peaceful, nobody was hurt. They were the activists, the water protectors who chose to get arrested, were able to engage in civil disobedience, connect themselves in these sleeping dragons, shut down production for days at a time. And that costs a corporation money. A pipeline costs millions of dollars a day to build. So Greenpeace provided this material support. The bank statements were there. The emails were there about buying these things, getting them to the site. And that is really what what my friend believes, and her analysis is this was really what brought Greenpeace into this lawsuit. Plus, Greenpeace has deep pockets. They're worth a lot of money. So, and if you bankrupt them, they're not going to do anything else like this. They are very good at large scale protests. Greenpeace has a boat. They sail their boat into whaling vessels. Greenpeace trains activists to climb bridges and hang banners. And they have two warehouses. I know this. They have two warehouses where they actually train activists to engage in this kind of stuff. I'm for it. I support civil disobedience. I think sometimes at the end of the line, it is our right to protest, to put our body on the line as long as nobody gets hurt. I think sometimes this is the last resort. Okay. Do I care that Energy Transfer Partners lost a bunch of money with a few days of construction being lost? Not particularly. I'm more upset for me, and I'll bring my guests up now. I think what really upsets me is this is a free speech. This is an attack on free speech, and this will chill free speech. And this will not only chill free speech, this will stop this kind of action from being, I guess, publicized. And that is indeed how young and new activists pick up the strategies and the tactics and do other things. I wouldn't have a problem if like the Pope and Obama and Bill Clinton put these iron locks on their arms and like stood and stopped a war somewhere. I mean, these are beneficial tactics to create to create dissension, right? Public dissension. So I will finish by saying a SLAPP lawsuit, which to me is probably hurts my heart the most. A SLAPP lawsuit is a strategic lawsuit against public participation. So what that means is that a corporation is suing people for publicly participating in their free speech. I'm a corporation, I can sue you, and it's really litigation abuse, okay? And they can sue and sue and sue. So it's a SLAPP lawsuit. 10 states have laws against SLAPP lawsuits. Initially, I'll finish, this case was brought into federal court and was dismissed in 2017. The federal court said, this is a SLAPP lawsuit. This is not a real lawsuit. Greenpeace did not defame you. Energy Transfer Partners dismissed. However, Energy Transfer Partners is rich. They have lots and lots of attorneys. They're very good attorneys, and they forum shopped. They found the right venue to bring this case, and they brought it in state court, and they brought it in North Dakota, where they had a very industry friendly jury, right? Because back to the jobs, a lot of people work in the industry, and they did some other stuff to kind of taint the jury before the trial. And the trial was not televised. There was no OJ. There was no, the glove don't fit. We didn't get to see the trial. If we'd been watching the trial like Amber Heard and Johnny Depp all week, it would have been amazing. But it's like this thing happened, and then, movement lawyers like myself get this. We see it on the news. I see it on the news like 3 days ago. I mean, I knew the trial was going on maybe a couple weeks ago, but I didn't know it was going on for the past 7 years. And I talked to my friend today and I said, how has this been going on for 7 years? She's like, tell me about it. But Greenpeace and there was a group that didn't really want to promote it or publicize it in a way that would have mobilized, I guess, more people around it. That's the way she explained it. So again, don't want to go into the hearsay. I'm going to bring up some folks and let them talk about how they feel about this. And then I have probably some more videos and stuff to show. So thanks everybody for coming through. And here we go. We've got Midlife Bro Logic, Lovely Ghosty, and the Powder Dusty, aka Flow State. So I am going to see if I can put us all in a way. There we go. Okay. So equal. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10. Whoever is closest to it goes first.
He was talking about Chris.
He's got 4.
6.
What do you want?
4, 6.
Shit.
What's your number?
There goes my strategy. 7.
It's 7.
All right.
You go first, then Ghosty, then Midlife Bro Logic. So you've got 4 minutes to share your thoughts, share your ideas, and then we'll just riff off that. And I want people in the comments to comment. Thank you so much. All 10 of you watching, this is exciting. All right, Flo, have at it.
I've got some on my side. Okay. I think that I'd like to know more about what specifically, how they racked up that dollar amount. It seems like a grotesque dollar figure for what my understanding of what happened there. I'm probably going to be the most of everyone on the panel. I'm probably going to be the most on the energy company side, I would guess. And the reason for that is because I don't view Greenpeace and protesters as legitimate grassroots organizations. I think that it's economic warfare. You mentioned Warren Buffett. I just view this as corporate interest versus corporate interest, and I think that the protests use the token Native American trope. Pull that, and you can't have a good environmental protest without a headdress there. So I view this as corporate interest versus corporate interest. I do think, at least from what I know, that the lawsuit, the damages seem excessive, and I don't know how you justify that, but I would say that I do lean in favor of the verdict. I think it's too excessive, but unless there's something I'm missing, I just don't think that other companies or hell, it could even be other governments, right? Should be allowed to tinker around with domestic energy production, right? That's a good that affects all of us. I don't think that they should be able to do proxy economic war, and I think that that's what this is, because, well, obviously energy is something that there is no other commodity that is so directly tied to a country's prosperity than energy. If energy costs are cheap, the people prosper. If they're high, they don't. So while there's obviously the Warren Buffett was involved, there's obviously local commercial interests warring here through this proxy. I think it's also a reasonable assumption that there are foreign interests, foreign national interests, who are just interested in undermining U.S. economic strength. And so even though that is sort of out on a limb a little bit, it's not a concern that I think should just be written off. Yeah. And that chick in the video clip mentioned the dogs with the blood dripping off them, and that caught my attention. So I went back and looked for it. As I could only trace, so I did find a photo. I know what she's talking about. I could only trace that back to Facebook. No, I'm not a detective or anything, but I would be curious to know if that photo, who uploaded that, and is that really from that event? Anyways, I yield the rest of my time.
Okay, I can answer those 2 points and then Ghosties up. Thank you so much. So where does this huge verdict come from? This massive verdict comes from, it's a defamation lawsuit, and then there were punitive charges and costs. So it's like the same principle that Donald Trump fell under, Giuliani fell under, when he had to pay those election workers his penthouse in New York and millions of dollars. I think tens of millions of dollars. Same with Donald Trump. He had to pay, or he was ordered, I think he's appealing it, ordered to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to that Washington Post reporter that he lied about or defamed in, 2 newspaper articles. Those, because it's like punitive. They really don't want people to be mean and ruin people's reputation or cause them financial harm. The jury awards are very high.
So does this seem like does this par for the course with this type of lawsuit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And I'll tell you why, because pipeline construction is not cheap. And if they lost 4 days of work, then that could easily be tens of millions of dollars. And then you multiply that 5 times in punitives, like the hot coffee, the woman who spilled the coffee in her lap and got millions of dollars from McDonald's. Same principle. Once you go to a punitive place with these jury awards, and you show that the corporation intentionally or negligently caused you harm, the damages go up. So I'm not surprised, because again, pipeline construction is not cheap.
Right.
Yeah. And then in terms of the dogs, yes, that really did happen. There was one day where there was like a prayer march, and it was a day when they were just marching in prayer to the pipeline site, and the dogs came. The security came. It was a privatized security group, and they brought dogs, and they did sick the dogs on the water protectors that one day. And there was a photographer there who caught a bunch of those pictures.
Was there any charges that arose from that incident? Because I don't see how you could just...
No, because the security was allowed to bring who they wanted to bring. They were within their rights.
But if I have my dog attack somebody, if I'm Walmart security and I have my dog attack somebody, that's still illegal, right?
No, not North Dakota. Private security, they had the dogs. They were hired to do it. The people were rushing the security guards, so the dogs, reacted. So it would have been different if the people had been like,
was it
sitting in a protest with their like alming, but they weren't. They weren't just sitting there chanting.
Was it considered self-defense, or is it considered trespassing? Is why that was justified, those measures?
Trespassing. Yeah. The prayer march went up to the pipeline site, and the company said, I think what happened, because I did see this video, there was a weekend, they did a prayer march, and then the march was walking away, and then the bulldozer started over here. And so all the water protectors went running back, lots of Native folks. There was horses. The dogs were attacking the horses.
They brought in horses?
Some of the Native folks were on horses because they just ride horses. Yeah. And there was it was pretty chaotic. But yes, the security companies were within their right. And the North Dakota state courts would never have taken those cases anyway, because they pretty much favored the companies and the security.
That is one other thing I think is it should not be downplayed, the fact that they're not going to get a fair jury in that environment.
They didn't. And not just that, we'll go more into how the corporation hired a consulting firm to taint the jury pool before the trial.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Ghosty.
Okay.
Hi.
Thanks for having me. So yeah, I'm an environment nature person, so I usually fall on the side of anti-oil and mining and stuff like that. Although I understand logistically we need oil to run the state of our society and everything. So I guess kind of just where I stand overall is I would like to see more money being put into better ways of cleaner energy and stuff like that, which I know there's like a lot of controversy with that and stuff too, but I just believe in the promotion of that idea, just moving towards better energy resources and stuff like that. So, but where we are right now, I understand we need oil as it is, but from my understanding, some of this land, there were like burial grounds, and I think there was some dispute over whether they were allowed to like even be on that land in the first place. So I'm not like super familiar with all the details, but I'm pretty sure that's where a lot of the protest was coming from. And also just wanting clean water, clean air, and protecting the environment to begin with. So, but the lawsuit, it is a SLAPP suit, which is always kind of maybe not always, but to me it always like, is a little bit of a red flag sometimes, especially in like things like this, because it does seem like it is trying to silence people, people who are just trying to protest and stuff. So I feel like if a group of protesters are being charged or are have a judgment of $600 million, that's going to deter other people from wanting to protest in the future, which I think is problematic. And there was something too, like, this has been a civil RICO lawsuit, which I never even heard of before this. So I heard words like eco-terrorism being used, which I thought was really interesting.
It started as a RICO lawsuit in federal court, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So I thought that was really interesting. I wasn't able to find the actual like PDF document of the judgment online. So since, from my understanding, defamation cases are like pretty hard to win in the US. Maybe it's kind of different with like corporations versus like a single person or something. But since I wasn't able to find the judgment, I wasn't able to find like the reasons listed for why they lost the lawsuit. So I'm assuming they had enough evidence to prove that there were damages to give that $600 million judgment. And like Lawyer Chick explained, pipelines are expensive to build and stuff like that. So I guess I can see where that judgment comes from, that amount comes from. But I also heard that in North Dakota, that's where this was, right? North Dakota, yeah, not South Dakota. North Dakota, they usually do film public court cases. They usually do screen those. They didn't do that here. And of course, North Dakota is one of the biggest like oil industries in our country. So it is going to be like probably a tainted jury. So I'm interested to hear about that a little bit more too. And let's see. Oh yeah, back to the job thing too. So yeah, I understand the jobs are needed for oil, but we have really low unemployment rates in the oil industry right now. So again, like, I don't know. I understand we can't just like cut off oil, but I do think it would be better to move in a new direction if possible and putting money into that rather than just not wanting to change at all because these companies want to continue making money even though it's not for the best of everybody overall in the long run. So it might be the harder thing to do, but that's just where I stand on it. So let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, the biggest thing is just the deterrent of free speech and the right to protest. And yeah, I have some comparisons we'll talk about later on. I think that's all I wanted to get off for now.
Thank you. I do have a breakdown of the damages. So
okay.
I'm going to share my screen. And actually, it's a very short summary of closing arguments. And then, Barnabas, before you go, I have one short video to show, and then we'll let you have your words. Okay. So let me make sure. I think this is the right one. Yes, here we go. So the breakdown, I'm going to start right here. In his closing statements, Trey Cox, the lead attorney representing Energy Transfer, accused Greenpeace of using a vulnerable population to further its anti-fossil fuel agenda. So this is something that my Navajo lawyer friend who I talked to today, let's just call her C. We'll call her C. So she was very critical of Greenpeace, and I can see why now that I'm reading this. So Greenpeace said, we were invited there. We were invited. We were nonviolent. We were there for the Native people. We were there to help this XYZ. They took the Standing Rock tribe. This is part of closing. Okay. They took the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and they exploited the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, he said. Cox attributed between $265 million and $340 million in damages to Greenpeace. He said the jury should not only hold Greenpeace accountable for this sum, but also hand down more than double that in punitive damages. So there's the number. If the jury grants Energy Transfer request, Greenpeace could be on the hook for between $800 million and $1 billion. And I think it came down to about $680. Cox argued punitive damages would dissuade Greenpeace and other organizations from acting similarly in the future. This is your responsibility to tell them you can't do these things. Cox said all 3 Greenpeace defendants worked in concert to send supplies to the protest, share intel with protesters, and pay Native activists to conduct trainings in the camp that encouraged demonstrators to break the law. And there were trainings all the time going on. And as I had said, I was told on Good Information today that there were indeed bank statements submitted as part of the evidence that showed Greenpeace had purchased those those sleeping dragons, the arm irons. He showed the jury photos of construction equipment with broken windows, anti-pipeline messages written in graffiti, and gas tanks filled with sand. He also displayed photos of vehicles on fire. And Everett Jack, the lead attorney representing Greenpeace, said that Energy Transfer provided no evidence that Greenpeace was the reason for any violent or destructive acts. So Greenpeace was like, it wasn't us, it was them. And, of course, Energy Transfer is like, Greenpeace, they couldn't have done it without your resources. And that is often the role that Greenpeace plays in these protests. So one short video and then something close to my heart. I see this as an environmental issue. As I said, I'm kind of with Ghosty on this. So I'm going to show you a 45-second video, one of my favorite characters ever, and then we'll let Barnabas go. I think this is emblematic of something that Dr. Seuss shared with us, wrote about so long ago. Literally 50 seconds of fun. It's one of my favorite stories growing up.
I speak for the trees. Let them grow. Let them grow. But nobody listens too much, don't you know? I speak for the trees, and I'll yell and I'll shout for the fine things on earth that are on their way out. They say I'm old-fashioned and live in the past. But sometimes I think progress progresses too fast.
I love the Lorax. It's literally one of my favorite stories. And the old movie is great. Highly recommend. 25 minutes. You can see the whole cartoon. And that's, for me, what this is about. I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees.
Good childhood propaganda.
Yes, childhood propaganda. But there are, again, as we're showing in this, proving in the show, so many more complex issues here. But to me, it comes down to the simple act of protecting the environment. I think that really should be everybody's first priority. And the one thing I will comment on is a comment in the chat. Bill Walsh, hey Bill, said, you don't have a right to protest on private property, and it's my understanding they own the mineral rights. Yes, the tribe owned the reservation, but what's under it was controlled by the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Army Corps of Engineers had given a permit to Energy Transfer Partners to take the minerals out. And Barnabas is absolutely, I love it. Okay, I'm going to let you tell me why I'm wrong, and I'll
okay. There's so much.
Take it away, sir.
There's so much to say. Let me just begin by saying, I know I live in Baltimore now. I'm living kind of a urban lifestyle, so to speak. But previous to this, and in my future, I believe I'm going to go back to the outdoors. I'm a hunter, a fisherman, a backpacker, a mountaineer, a snowboarder, a scuba diver. I love the outdoors. I hate and detest all things litter, right? I want to save the environment more than, just as much as anyone else, right? But what is the proper way to save the environment? I think that's the question. And then, how can I piece this kind of speech together? Let's just start off with Greenpeace, right? Let's start off with Greenpeace. Greenpeace is more or less the preeminent save the earth company, NGO, whatever you want to call it, that everyone has heard of. And I want to say that Greenpeace is a complete joke. Flow State kind of stole my thunder. This is like a Flow State with additions added on, right? Greenpeace is a joke. I'm not one to pocket watch, but let me just read some numbers off the top. Here's some woman, Susha Rashman. She makes $490,000 a year plus 109, whatever that is. Here's another one. Cynthia 376,000 plus 111,000.
Wait,
bonus.
hold on. These are employees of Greenpeace?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us this is actually another huge issue in the NGO world. So what is their job and their salary again?
Sushma Raman, president and CEO. This is under the Google search. So it's trust me, bro, Google. 490,000, 997,000 compensation, and then under other it says 110,000. Right? Cynthia Allman, program director, 376,000, other 111,000. Jennifer Shipp, general counsel, 366,000, other 95,000. So that really equals 450,000. Barbara Chow, program director, 351,000, other 110,000. These people are making the big bucks. I want to see results. What results do we have? And let's look at Greenpeace. Let's just take this to where I want to take it. Let's take it to the place it always leads to. I posit that Greenpeace is an anti-white racist organization. Just look at who they are. They're all women, and there is not one. There's possibly one out of 17, and I question that. Cisgender, white male, possibly straight, and that's even under question, honestly. I'm just putting that out there. Just look at the directors, look who's there.
Every single person is a woman on their board?
No, there's two almost cisgender white males, but there's only one possible cisgender white male Gentile. Okay? And representation.
So we're being discriminated against.
We are. And it's being run by women, nonetheless, and not even people that look like me. So it's a racist organization. Oh, Barnabas, you're just thinking too much. No, representation does matter, and we're not in there. And considering it was started by a bunch of Canadians that look like Flow State and some of their wives, right? And they're just totally
Canadians
gone.
are the worst.
Totally gone.
So you're pro DEI?
Only when it's adding more white men in.
There you go. Thank you, Flo. But listen, I'm not done.
RDEI, reverse.
I'm not done. I'm for natural DEI, right? Not forced. But how do we? You can see there's an agenda. And I have another example. One of my pet projects, one of my things that bothers me the most. There is an island called the Faroe Islands. It's near Iceland. There have been people that look like me living on that island for over 1,000 years. And part of their diet is, pilot whales. Pilot whales looks like a big black dolphin. Okay. And they've been literally eating them for 1,000 years. Okay. Look at Greenpeace's page and it says, we're against this. This is bad. Everyone's all up in arms that the people that look like me want to eat whales. Okay.
Delicious.
And then when you look at their take on the Inuits, they're like, oh, it's totally fine. It's totally fine, bro. They can eat what they want. It's their culture. But we got a problem with Faroe Island. Get them out of here. And then here's another thing I want to say about Greenpeace. Greenpeace claims, oh, we didn't do anything with DAPL, Dakota Access Pipeline. We didn't have nothing to do with it. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. You had nothing to do with Dakota Access Pipeline? This is international news. Obama stopped it, right? Obama had a hot potato in his hands. He's like, I'm out of here. He passed that hot potato to Trump.
Yeah, he stopped it for a minute.
Yeah, because he was out the door. That's a hot potato. I don't want that. Let me blame it on Trump because I'm a coward. Anyways, but listen, how can the preeminent Save the Earth in organization not have anything to do with DAPL? It's either you're incompetent or you're worthless. Which one is it? You can't have both.
They can have both.
They can't. You're right. But it's insane to sit here and admit that, oh, when all this was happening, the most important environmental thing in America, we were just on the sidelines. We had nothing to do with it because they're Indians and we needed to. You don't know how to bridge over troubled water and help Indians trying to save their land or whatever. And furthermore, lawyer chick, you're wrong. This pipeline never, ever went through their land, ever. If you go back to never, and that's the propaganda that you've fallen for, ma'am. Okay. You can look at me side eyes. If you go back to 1851 by the Fort Laramie Treaty, maybe, but it was changed in 1868. The pipeline doesn't even touch that.
But the tribe, for whatever reason, was going under the Fort Laramie Treaty, I think. There was definitely a treaty rights claim. And I'll tell you something else.
But
and I
listen,
disagree
hold
with
on,
this.
hold on.
Go on.
They were
the tribe invited people on that principle, which I thought was wrong. But go on.
That was not the borders during the pipeline construction. The pipe never crossed it ever. Now, do I want a pipeline with oil gushing all around my property? Not in my backyard. Hell no. I get it. And it's like, Indian treaties. We know how that went, right? The poor Indians, or indigenous Americans, FYI, apparently they used to call it Turtle Island, which I just learned. Interesting fact. Turtle Island. Didn't know that. It's kind of a cautionary tale of how important a strong immigration policy is, because I will say that the indigenous Americans had the globe's worst immigration policy known to man. They just let everyone in, and look what happened to their culture. I'm really getting off track on that. So we talked about how stupid and racist Greenpeace is. Here we go. Here's another thing. I just want to put some salt on the wound. 2014, Greenpeace defends top executive. Issue of Pascal Hustling. Flying from Luxembourg to Amsterdam is a really tough one. The head of Greenpeace UK has defended the need for one of the environmental group's top executives to fly to work several times a month. Are you kidding me? Global man-made climate change is a hoax. It is a hoax.
Don't say that on this show.
It is a hoax.
It's a hoax.
This is not the opinion of this show. Everybody, for the record.
I know it's crazy. There used to be a time in my life when people said that, and I was like, man, they're so stupid. Yes. But I'm there now.
We are free speech
now.
So what do you mean it's a hoax? It's a hoax because people are creating it, because people are flying to work in an airplane.
Man-made climate change, I believe, based off of Trust Me Bro and watching YouTube, it's a hoax. Okay. And we have someone in Greenpeace who's like, well, of course I have to fly to work.
Right.
I mean,
so if he really believes
the end of the world is really coming, take a bicycle, bro.
Sure.
Right? Take a canoe. Stop it. The dude works for freaking Greenpeace. What a hoax. So we talked about how big of a scam it is. I don't like the pocket watch, but these people are paid quite a bit and they're not getting results. And furthermore, where were they during all this Fort Laramie, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. You come to the party late and then pretend like you weren't even there. What's up? Greenpeace is worthless. I want it to go down. I want it to burn in flames. I want it to go away so we can finally have somebody maybe do something decent about the environment. Furthermore, I don't want to fall for propaganda, which we are all susceptible to. Just want to read that carrying oil on trains is more dangerous than a pipeline. It sounds like pipeline propaganda. Maybe it's true, but isn't there a town in Palestine that had some thing blow up on the train?
Palestine, Ohio.
Maybe a pipeline is even safer, I guess.
Definitely was part of the debate during all of this.
And it's more energy efficient as well, right? Like, it takes a lot more power to run a train.
Yes.
But it's also similar to the thing that comes to mind is, it's like, oh, planes are safer than driving to the airport. I'm like, yeah, but if I get a fender bender, it sure beats just like blowing up a plane. So what else did I miss? I hate Greenpeace. And finally, we need to talk about what you have, Lawyer Chick. Is this a First Amendment? This is how they're trying to frame it. They're like, First Amendment is at risk because of these Indians and Greenpeace. And I'm like, oh my God, I like the First Amendment. I can't even speak my mind on YouTube half the time. I want to fight for that. But it's really like, what are the damages? I don't know. How much does it cost? How much did they lose? I think that they're just a reactionary, garbage, trash organization that's just like, look at me, I'm Greenpeace, and we're the victim too, and this is bad for First Amendment, and you have to join us. Save the earth, come volunteer so we can make $600,000 a year. No thanks. That's what I think. I'm tapping out. Thank you, Lawyer Chair.
So just to follow up on that, you think that this lawsuit was not a strategic lawsuit against public participation? You think Greenpeace really, truly deserved this? Because initially, as Ghosty said, it was a RICO lawsuit. It was brought under federal RICO, saying Greenpeace colluded with all of these other organizations, which I actually think is more, not that it's accurate, but more accurate. And even like calling my friend today, I was like, am I in trouble because I was doing presentations on Indian law in DC to law students during the time? And she said, no, that's not the issue. The issue isn't that you helped bring the message out. She said the issue, and where Greenpeace really messed up, and she was very clear about this, that they actually had bank statements and evidence that they supported with material support, and that nonprofits should never, nonprofits, I have nonprofit clients, you can't support illegal activities with nonprofit funds. You will lose your nonprofit status. And they did that. And maybe they thought, I asked why, and she said, she's just said Greenpeace is arrogant. That's what she said. And she's somebody who founded, again, she worked with a lot of people on the ground because a lot of people were arrested. And she was there doing a lot of legal clinics, and she had a tent and was living there the whole time as a lawyer. She was like an on the ground attorney at the protest. And she just has some stuff just really interesting. I'm actually really glad I talked to her before I did the show. But she said, it I guess could have been avoided. But back to the SLAP lawsuit, I still think this is a dangerous precedent to set. And I'll talk more about some SLAP lawsuits. I have a list that I want to share with you.
Well, you asked me if I think it's a SLAP lawsuit.
What do you think? I guess, are you okay with
Let me clarify. Okay. I don't know, because I don't know how much it costs to run a pipeline. I bet it's not cheap. I bet all those dudes are contract, and whether they worked or not, you had to pay them because they're sitting at Best Western, probably, transient oil workers. And again, it wasn't on their freaking lands. Just remember that. Look it up. It never ran through the Standing Rock. Never. Okay. I can understand why they don't want it, but let's just speak the truth. And that's always muddled over. So
they do claim that Turtle Island is their ancestors' burial grounds, though. Right. So I don't know if that counts. Is that just like a sentimental versus a legal thing? I'm not sure, but.
Was that a question for me, Ghosty?
Like, yeah, like you're saying none of it was their grounds legally? Is that what you're saying?
Legally under American law, it wasn't. But obviously, they were the first inhabitants, and if you ask them, they claim all of the Americas, right? Understandably, I understand it.
Because I know, like I'm in Pennsylvania, and I know people who, like oil companies went to them to buy their property so they could like frack there, but I don't know if So I'm not sure if it was their land and they were literally kicked out of it, or like should they have been compensated for it or something. I personally don't know, but they were claiming it to be their land. So but what you're saying is it wasn't actually, like, they had no right to it.
I actually think the water that it was going under a lake, and that water was connected to the reservation. There was a connection. It wasn't just next door. I mean, Barnabas, maybe it wasn't through the res where like people live, but it was.
It's not through their land at all. That's the fact. I don't know what to talk. I can't be any more clear on that.
But maybe it comes to the point of the water, that the water did flow into the reservation. So the idea is like.
They maybe could claim like I have water rights or something.
Yes,
maybe I think they probably use that.
Anything we can do to get the headdress in the photo shoot.
Anything we can do to keep our water clean.
No, we got dirty water all over the country.
That's the problem, right?
That is a problem. But I don't at all believe that digging ditches to drop a pipeline, if the pipeline functions correctly, there will be no dirty water concerns.
But pipelines often spill, like very commonly.
Correct. And there are mistakes that happen regardless of how we do things, but we wouldn't suggest just not doing things so we don't make mistakes, right?
But isn't it? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, I guess it depends. Like, I guess you would have to look at the consequences versus the percentages, like the likelihood of it happening.
Somebody could do a calculation, sure. I guess, but what I'm pointing out is that the alternative also has risk. There is no risk-free option except for just not needing oil, and I don't know that anybody's suggesting that.
Ghosty, I'm not an expert at this, but I read a little bit ahead of time about this reservation. Apparently, it was like a couple of tribes that were forced on that land. They didn't really want to be there. And even when they forced them on that reservation, they were still killing each other.
Somebody in my chat says, like 90% of land has water that flows has water flow that runs into a drinking source. This argument is BS, and it's always going to be under or around drinking water sources. It does, like, everything is in a aqua. What's it called? A water shelf.
Water basin, reservoir.
A watershed.
Well, I guess the
Watershed.
argument is like how much does our country want to protect our environment? Like what's more worth it? Like more pipelines and more homegrown or homemade oil for sacrificing like our land for that, or or the opposite? So I guess people are having a debate about what they value more.
I disagree that that's the thing at hand. I think because what's the alternative? Is it train? No matter how you move the oil, everybody still needs the oil, right? The oil's going to be moved. And so I don't even think it's not an environmental issue. It's not protect the environment. It's which way are we going to impact the environment? Do we even, and I mean, as far as I can tell, the alternative to a pipeline is much worse environmentally. And I don't think, unless anybody's suggesting that we just stop impacting the environment, in which case now you're getting close to calling for genocide or something, like, what was that?
My dog, a beagle.
Oh.
She's a beagle. Sorry.
Aw.
That's the legal beagle. Yes.
The legal beagle. Adorable.
She isn't. Yeah, she's a joke.
I think that this is corporate economic warfare.
Yeah, so go back to that, Flo. What do you mean by that? Warfare from who against who? Against each other, like the Warren Buffett supporting the anti-protest, like proxy war kind of thing? Because I think you're onto that. You're onto something there.
Yeah. Warren Buffett, that's just the base level, right? We know that Warren Buffett's invested in the protest because he's the alternative, right? So he's looking to give himself business moving these products around instead of energy transfer. So now we're not even talking about, this is not an environmental issue at all at this point. This is a who's going to get the money concern. But beyond that, and this is just sort of my own hunch. I guess I haven't researched it much, and I don't have any really evidence aside from the fact that obviously it would be the case, right? I believe that the environmental movement has been basically entirely hijacked by bad actors and private interests, whether that's China trying to drive up our energy costs, which would affect the whole economy, or whoever it is in the UN that believes in climate change and wants to sell you your carbon credit so that you're allowed to continue to do whatever it is to the environment. Now you just have to pay us, and like that will offset anything in the environment. It's a grift, it's a racket, and it's a photo op mostly. I'm sure that Greenpeace was thrilled. The environmentalists were probably thrilled to have somebody get attacked by a dog. I can't think of a better photo op, unless if it was a Native American in a headdress getting attacked by a dog. Of course, that would be the creme de la creme. But
instant win.
Yeah, it was something like that. Imperious in the chat said it's not anti-SLAPP. Dakota doesn't have anti-SLAPP statutes. You are correct. Imperious said North Dakota does not have anti-SLAPP statutes, which means you can bring a SLAPP lawsuit, or like it's not. It's like this. You could defend a lawsuit as being a SLAPP lawsuit and get it knocked out. And then that would be grounds to knock the lawsuit out. So if this lawsuit was brought in California, Greenpeace probably would have beat it out the gate and said, you're bringing this because of our protest. But because North Dakota doesn't have an anti-SLAPP statute, and they were able to beat what's called summary judgment and get the case into court and cooking, then it was able to be argued on the merits, which were, it was a defamation case. And so it would, the Energy Transfer Partners was able to prove that defamation occurred. However, if they were in another state, like in California, or like I guess the RICO part wasn't proved, but if you went to a place like California, one of 10 states that has anti-SLAPP statutes, it wouldn't have what they say passed the muster of summary judgment. It would have been knocked out at the beginning because Greenpeace would have shown that this was because of the protest and the activism and the outcry, and it wouldn't even have gotten to share the evidence or have a trial on the merits of the defamation claim.
And it was dropped in federal court.
It was dropped in federal court, but the claim there was RICO. These are some of the best lawyers in the world, right? So they brought it, and RICO is a mob. It's a mafia law,
RICO's
basically.
A due process bypass. RICO's bullshit.
Yeah, RICO. Wait, what does RICO stand for?
Racketeering.
That one. Yes.
Something.
Racketeering and something. So it's a mob
circumventing.
It's an anti-mob lawsuit. So they tried to bring in RICO, and they actually have brought successful RICO cases at the federal level against gang members because you're a group of people conspiring and committing unlawful activities together. So if you apply that analysis to Standing Rock, you have a group of organizations, Greenpeace being a big one, who provided material support to a group of organizations that were conducting civil disobedience, training in civil disobedience. So you could say they all conspired in illegal activity, the legal activity being civil disobedience. However, that's protected under the First Amendment. So a anti-SLAPP statute will exist in a state that wants to protect the First Amendment. However, a state like North Dakota that doesn't care enough to pass a law like that, there is no anti-SLAPP. You're not even bringing that issue, and it's going to a defamation case. So, any other comments?
May I read a super chat?
Please.
I told my audience that I would read super chats.
I want you to, yes, and that means they're paying attention. So, hello, Flo's audience.
Doesn't necessarily mean that because Plumpy, thank you for the super chat. He says, "I'm not masturbating for Lent. Thought you should know."
Is he talking to you, Flo, or Midlife Girl Logic?
I assume he's talking to me. Although, yeah, I assume he's talking to me. But it's good for all of us to know and to keep in mind this Lent season that maybe we should stop maybe we masturbate too much in our own lives.
Mm-hmm.
Let me shout out to Smoking Alder who bought some memberships. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And apparently he's going to bed. So have a good night, my dude. Thank you so much, and see you next time.
Yes, thank you so much.
All of the Barney Bros who are watching, I certainly appreciate it. Make sure you sub to Lawyer Chick.
Yes. Ghosty, do you have anybody in your chat you'd like to chat with?
Hi, chat. I did decide to stream, so.
Lovely. Yes, and all right, and I'll give a shout out. This is Restream. I am using Restream. I can't get rid of this icon next to my head. I will try for the next time, but we're trying Restream instead of StreamYard, and so far so good. So hello everybody. Hey Sasquatch. Hey Brett. My favorite Canadian. I am a fan.
Brett's been everywhere.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Brett. I'm sorry you hate us so much. I'd love to know what you think. If there, we could keep going with the panel. Again, I want to do a hard stop in about 20 minutes. If y'all have more to say, let's say it. If not, I'll try dropping the link and let people hop on. I've covered all my notes and showed my Lorax video. I speak for the trees.
The Lorax. Doesn't it make you mad knowing that that's pure propaganda that you were spoon-fed as a child before you had the critical thinking to go, this is propaganda?
That just hurt my stomach. You made my stomach hurt by saying that.
That's the cognitive dissonance. Don't worry. We're getting that cognitive dissonance exercise out of your poor manipulated. The poor little lawyer chick got manipulated by the man.
Little lawyer chick.
But
how is
do you
it
believe
propaganda?
that? Yeah.
True.
Do you believe climate change is like human impacted climate change is? I mean, I feel like it's indisputable.
I feel like I think that it's arrogant as shit to think that us driving our cars around or mowing our lawns is more environmentally impactful than, say, all of the cosmos and the sun and volcanoes.
It's just physics, though. It's
no,
CO2
it's not
levels.
physics.
I mean, we can even see it. We have worse tornadoes every year.
What happened to the hole of the ozone layer?
What?
What happened to the hole in the ozone layer that hairspray was causing?
We stopped using hairspray. I was in New Jersey in the 80s.
CFCs.
I stopped using hairspray.
Chlorofluorocarbons.
What about what
Jersey
was it before?
The ice caps are
climate change?
melting?
No, they're not. Because 3 decades ago, it was an ice age that was coming, and before that, we've gone through all of the potential environmental changes, and at the end of the day, things have not really stretched outside of the normal range. What's the coldest date on record in the U.S. was something for like 1909, and the hottest was back. I mean, we're just the environment. No, nothing's happening. They just want your money.
So I agree that there are a lot of bad actors in the green movement that are doing it solely for money. I don't think most of the scientists are bad actors.
Why?
But I think people are taking
Hold on.
advantage of their research.
Who do you think funds scientists? Who do you think that scientists are just because they're scientists, they got a halo and they never lie, they don't interpret data to benefit the people who fund their studies? You think they don't need money like the rest of us? Go see.
No, I mean, sure, but I do think there are people who just genuinely care about science and research and the planet.
Okay,
like for
don't
example,
doubt that there are some-
Exxon was one of the first companies that actually like looked into all of this, and they ignored lots of their own research, and they actually put out misinformation, and was saying like, oh no, all this stuff is fine. When you actually look at like some of their early research from the 80s and stuff, it says this is going to have massive like effects on the environment. It's going to cause problems.
What is?
Burning fossil fuels at high rates.
Yeah, well, you can't really know, because I'm not a scientist, you're not a scientist. Scientists are funded by somebody, and nobody paying for massive studies is disinterested in the outcome of the study. So since we're not scientists, it makes sense that we would try to approach this from a different direction. I think conflict of interest and personal incentives are a good way to look at it.
Yeah, but I just told you this is coming from Exxon researchers. Like, this came out of Exxon.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's fine.
Okay.
You got something from Exxon that says something is bad. I don't know what you're talking about. But we do know that what are the solutions being proposed? We've got windmills falling apart. I'm in Kansas. Trust me. There's nobody to work on them. They're not efficient anyways.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There are bad actors.
It's only bad actors. There is no more efficient way than fossil fuels.
Like even like solar systems, they'll like clear out a
Solar's
whole desert
trash.
and put out solar stuff, and then you realize actually clearing out the desert and having all that metal out there reflecting the sun back actually isn't any better. And windmills that only last for 10 years, and all the construction, all the fossil fuel you burn in the construction to build those is just as bad.
Electric
so I understand
is worse
that.
too.
But I think this is just coming from greed. I don't think people actually want to make changes.
Find a better solution. What is a better solution than fossil fuels?
I don't think people want to find it because there's so much money in the current ways.
Well,
You don't think people want to find a way to make more money?
Let me ask you a question. Should corporations be penalized when they pollute land to pull oil to, like this, the Lorax was not talking about climate change. What the Lorax was presenting, and I'll defend him.
The Lorax is on trial here.
Yeah, the Lorax was presenting a case of a land that was full of truffula trees and dancing barbaloot bears and little fishes, and the Onceler came and cut down all the trees and deforested, poisoned the water, and then the fishies had nowhere to live. And then when he cut down the trees, the barbaloots had nowhere to live. So then he was doing it all to make the need, right, the little product. And so he took away the habitat. It doesn't say anything about climate change. It's just talking about deforestation and environmental destruction. So I guess back to my question, do you think that companies should pay when they destroy the environment, when they cause us to lose, vital ecosystems? Midlife Biologic can't hunt anymore. He can't fish anymore.
He doesn't seem like a hunter to me in the first place.
What are you talking about?
Are you a hunter for real?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Don't make me get my bear skin out in my antlers, bro.
I didn't ask if you were a cosplayer.
I killed those animals and ate them. Delicious.
Nice. No, I don't. As you asked the question, absolutely not. Because what constitutes pollution? If I throw a cigarette butt down on the job, did I just pollute the environment? Yes, technically.
Well, it's the big companies that cause the most pollution.
Well, sure. People who have more reach can do more things. That's true.
Yeah, so should they have to be responsible, like environmentally responsible?
I'm gonna need the women to more clearly define what they would propose than say be responsible. Sure, everybody should be responsible.
Okay, Flo, do you see these pictures? See water on fire,
Fuck that.
oil. Do you think this is just lies? The oil, Ecuador had a lawsuit against Chevron in the 80s that they won billions of dollars. They're still trying to settle that lawsuit. But do you not think this is irresponsible, or that it should just be okay because we need the oil?
There's a difference between error. I don't think that they're irresponsible. I don't think that you get to be a company of that size by being irresponsible.
Here's my favorite.
For instance, lumber mills have an interest in having trees around, right? So loggers aren't just clearing trees and then not putting anything else behind them.
Yeah, but it takes like 100 years to grow a tree.
Right.
But there's also, for example, like plastic companies, like are refusing to switch to more sustainable packaging and stuff like that because there's money in plastic.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, when we could be switching over to better whatever.
I do not think that these sad brown people with muck on their hands I think this is a stage photo. Is it at a real location? Maybe.
Yes, this was Rigoberta Menchú in Ecuador in a
and they were like, lady, go stick your hands in this muck so we can take a picture of you so that we can get paid.
This is from one of the first oil exploration cases where an American corporation was held responsible for $8.65 billion of pollution issued against the oil company by a court in Ecuador.
And who did they have to pay that money to?
They still haven't paid it. This is another really interesting case. I guess the people of Ecuador. And their lawyer, the lawyer, Steven Doziger, was on, I think came off house arrest finally. He has spent more than 2 decades on this trial. And Steven Doziger's name has come up in this particular Energy Transfer Partners lawsuit because the lawyers that fought Energy Transfer Partners were also the same lawyers who went against Steven Doziger. So
here's my point. I think I don't think that these mega energy corporations are benevolent. I also don't think that the parasites playing the environmental angle and trying to win money from these companies are benevolent either. I don't think that people actually impacted in a negative way are winners. I think that this is business versus legal parasites utilizing Native Americans, basically.
But the Native Americans were out there in force.
They're probably paid in force. Come on, you think that they can't mobilize some people?
Okay, hold on. Let me jump in.
Go on.
I don't know who that is. I think it's
Ghosty.
Sorry, yes,
I think it's Ghosty's
sorry.
friend.
My boyfriend's computer is right next to mine, and he gave
Ghosty's
so
boyfriend. Shut up.
I'm trying to mute when he's talking. Sorry.
Okay, appreciate that.
I just embarrassed her.
Is this stage? Look at this. Come here, Abuela. Look at this overweight Abuela. Put your hands in oil.
That's Rigoberta Menchú. She is a very well-known environmental indigenous rights activist.
Exactly.
She's not just a random Abuela. Stop. She's a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
Barnabas. She's a well-known.
This is not the one.
Businesswoman. This is not.
This is not the one she is a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
She's a rich activist.
So she's
not a rich activist.
She is rich.
This is not the one.
Activist.
She is rich. Absolutely. What are you talking about? Stop.
I don't think she's rich. I don't think
she lives in Ecuador and she makes $500,000 a year.
She lives in Guatemala and I don't know what she makes. And she deserves every dime. I hope she's rich.
These activists are just doing a job like everybody else is.
She's rich.
They are grifting off of environmental damage the same way that cops grift off crime.
Listen, can I talk?
Yes, please talk.
Flo, I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong, but I mean, come on, man. Exxon Valdez happened, there's a mess. You know, it's like when your dog poops.
Yes.
The owner's supposed to pick it up. You're not supposed
when
to
your dog poops.
You're not supposed to be like, I don't see any poop. That's not mine. And just keep
I
it
agree
pushing.
with that.
No, you should be like, no, clean up your poop.
I agree with that.
Exxon, clean up your poop. You know you did a bad thing.
With
Slap him on the wrist, okay?
I agree with that.
Is this woman an opportunistic activist, slacktivist, muddy hand? Yeah, probably. You know, is she what was that? Is she like is she Ecuador's Greta Thunberg? Probably.
She's not from Ecuador.
Whatever.
She's from Guatemala. She's been doing this work since she was a child.
Guatemala.
She is not the one to.
You said she was in Ecuador.
She was in Ecuador, but she's Rigoberta Menchú. I don't want to have to give a history lesson on
that name. You know, it's whatever. But if you're just going to sit
she's
here and act like what Flo said is 100% wrong.
I'm just saying, don't hate on Rigoberta Menchú. No,
Rigoberta Menchú, I hate on you.
Stop it. What I'm hating on is that you said she's just an overweight abuela. No. And just sidebar, Juan, check your email.
I don't think she's an overweight abuela. I think that
midlife burlesque. Stop it.
She is those things, but I think that what she is more than that is a cunning bullshit artist who's found a way to make a lot of money by being a saint to people who watch cartoons too much as children.
We watch too much Lorax.
Yes, the Lorax is who's really on trial here. And so I agree with midlife bro logic. If the oil companies should pick up their poop when they drop it, absolutely. What I don't think that we should do is motivate an entire industry of hanger-oners and leeches and parasites just looking for issues, potentially creating issues, so that they can grift off of the damages and the bad.
So Flo, I like the environment. I bet you like the environment.
I love the environment.
So
I live here in the environment.
Hopefully Greenpeace will I told you how I feel about Greenpeace, right? And I'm not the kind of guy who wants to get mad that someone makes like 5,000% more dollars than I do. But hopefully Greenpeace disbands and something's going to come up in its place. Probably.
But will we be able to public protest? And does it matter to you?
I don't. Wait a minute. I mean, that's okay. That's what are we talking about now?
Do you believe in civil disobedience? You're saying something else will come up in Greenpeace's place. But before we carry on, I want to bring
I'm trying to start Greenpeace Part 2 with Flow State.
We're next in the environment movement.
You're the next gen.
It's called mid powder piece.
Can you put some oil on your hands and look sad?
My environment.
Can you go to one of those? Go to one of those.
You in timeout, but I don't know how. I don't know how to put you in timeout.
Flo, go to one of those windmills and pick up like a dead bird and look at and like hold it like it's the windmill killed my bird.
I'm gonna go kill a bird right now for the photo op.
Barney,
and then guess what, bro? The nuclear power company is gonna be like, Flo, you're my dude. Take this check, $300,000. Find some more dead birds and take pictures.
They're all over by
bad.
These windmills.
Nuclear is the future.
You know, I have a better idea. Barney can hunt the animals and then put them in your hands. Perfect. I know. Yeah. I'm going to bring up a very special guest. He is a lawyer. Whether you pass the bar or not doesn't matter to me, Juan, because you're lawyering, and also known as, I think, Sexy Cookie in this panel verse. Let's bring up Juan. I believe he's been called that in the past. Hello.
Chocolate chip, sure.
Chocolate chip.
More like a
How you doing,
snickerdoodle.
sir? Welcome, Juan.
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
All right. I love the Texas flag. Do you have anything to say about this?
I think that's Puerto Rico. Lawyer
the Puerto Rican flag, but you know.
Is it similar to the Texas flag?
Not even close.
Okay,
it's the inverse of the
it's close.
flag.
It's close.
They both have stars.
That's very kind of you.
You mean
All
a
right.
star?
All right, go on. Any comments on this topic? How you doing?
I'm doing good. This is, I find it great that we're talking about a topic that I studied a year before I went to law school, where this girl, was she Guatemalan or was she Ecuadorian? I thought she was from Ecuador. But they basically played a judicial game of chicken for 20 years, and Chevron and a couple of other companies tried to bankrupt their case. And they're still slugging it out after almost 30 years.
That's what I said. Their lawyers on house arrest like last year.
Again?
I think he was on it for a while. I mean, I was actually looking at this case earlier this year. So yes.
Well, I know that there was an attorney in Florida, if I'm not mistaken, that got involved, and he was basically influencing the judges in Ecuador to rule in their favor, and he got caught, and he was up for sanctions by the Florida bar. And then he tried to call up his buddies to influence them to not sanction him here, and that's the last I heard of it. I didn't know what happened to him afterwards. But the other guy, that guy to me, he's almost like your modern day Don Quixote, except the windmill actually halfway fell down this time.
You mean Stephen Dolsinger?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Are you all fanboying out about environmental lawyers?
Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah, what is happening here? I don't like it.
None of us are impressed with these parasites.
The problem was that in the area...
Actually, no, he wasn't pardoned. Go on. Keep going.
In the area that they were suing, what was going on was you had a whole bunch of cancer clusters that were breaking out in the indigenous community. And if I'm not mistaken, it was based on how they were digging the petroleum out of the ground that was causing all of this.
Yeah.
And so they were able to figure out causation. They were also able to figure out that what these guys were doing, because dynamite was involved, was an inherently dangerous activity. So they sued in the American courts. And then in the American courts, they're like, yeah, no, you got to sue in Ecuador. And so it was basically a choice of law issue. And in Ecuador, good Lord, those courts were something else from what I saw from the first one. But I haven't paid attention.
We have Lorax and the brave lawyers just out here working, trying to save the earth and get fuckloads of money. Thank God for their generosity and benevolence.
Thank God.
He faced retaliation for his part in the billion-dollar lawsuit. He spent 993 days in home detention in Manhattan, which ended 2 years ago. And the article I'm looking at is from 2024. So he was out. He was released in 2022. And I guess it was a contempt offense that he was charged on, but he worked on the case. That he was cited for, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So he won a landmark judgment, and I don't think they ever got paid. And no,
they didn't.
Yeah. The payment was for deliberately dumping oil waste in indigenous communities in the Amazon. And then he was held in contempt, and Biden did not pardon him. I believe he should have, but he didn't. There was a lot of petitions for him to pardon him. And it's just terrifying to the industry. So, Juan, do you think this case puts a chill on free speech? Do you think that nonprofits or NGOs like Greenpeace should be allowed to materially support property destruction as an act of civil disobedience? Do corporate profits matter more than speaking for the trees and clean water? What do you think?
I don't know if it chills free speech or not, but I'm not in favor of destruction of property in the name of activism. There were legal remedies that they could seek. They sought them. To me, destroying property or acting in violence, that's when you genuinely have literally nothing to lose. And then at that particular point, watch out. But I don't think that they were at that zenith yet. There were still other things that they could have done in the court system. I mean, they had a law firm in New York that was financing them, if I'm not mistaken. So
you
money
mean the
was
Energy Transfer Partners?
I don't know, not them. Those were the guys that were fighting them, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. But the point is money wasn't an issue for them. They were getting the financing because this law firm believed in their case. So no, I don't. If you act in civil disobedience and you start destroying property, at that point you're defeating yourself. And so to me, why would you cut your nose off to spite your face, right? That's what I think.
Okay. I want to say one more thing, that once this case was moved to North Dakota, Energy Transfer Partners hired consultants and sent out a lot of information, like newsletters called The Real Truth News, and things about the case to sort of taint the jury pool. Although it was known that they would get an industry-friendly jury anyway, they still did a lot beforehand to sort of inform people about the case, inform people about what was going on. So when they got the jury pool, they held against Greenpeace. And Greenpeace, by every stretch, is an outsider here. So I just wanted to add that. And that also sort of gets into the constitutional issues here. Because should a fancy law firm with a lot of money and deep pockets be able to taint a jury pool? Because your right to a jury of your peers, your right to an unbiased jury is a fundamental right, just like your right to free speech. So I want to close my comments by saying that This case brings so many issues. I love it. I really appreciate you all coming on and speaking tonight. And I speak for I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. And I will
The
end there.
Lorax has been found guilty.
And I'm just going to go around and let people do some closing remarks and the stream. I was trying to keep it to 90 minutes. I do not have it like you guys, where you go for hours and hours. Wherever there's an after party, please let my millions of followers know, or millions of watchers. Actually, all 22 of you who are watching, that's amazing. I'm stoked. So everybody go, and then I'll come back at the end and do a promo for my next show, which you might find interesting. Let's go down. Powder Dusty, aka Flow State. Closing remarks.
All right. Well, I think it's no surprise that she wants me to close first, because she don't want me to come in and sweep up the Lorax and all the Lorax supporters' terrible arguments about why that thing should not be in prison, along with the environmental tragedy pimps and parasites. I think at the end of the day, I think that the dollar amount seems excessive. It definitely seems like it meets the qualifications of a slap lawsuit. And I think that there are concerns about it chilling future protests when they might be correctly applied. But as far as, do I think this is environmental win? No, I think that this is corporate warfare, and nothing else. I don't think, because the alternative to a pipeline is what? Nobody on the pro-environment side even actually knows what the alternative is. They just know that the pipeline is bad. So if you don't know what the plan B is if the pipeline fails, are you really worried about the environment, or are you just taking a cause because you feel away because you watch cartoons too much and you like the Lorax? It's hard to say. It's hard to say that that's really an environmentally minded position if you don't know what will happen if you get your way in the outcome. Also, global warming, definitely the biggest grift of our time, and totally fake. I think that's all. Although if I think it's something else, I'll interrupt anyone else's closing arguments to say it.
You are welcome to do so. Juan, I'm going down and up. Juan, go see him. We'll finish with Midlife for Logic.
Down and up. Well, I was actually going to compliment what you just said regarding the constitutional issues. It opened up a whole slew of ethical issues as well. What the hell is a third party that's not directly involved in the case have to do with why are they tainting the jury pool? That's another. From what I understood, that was a huge no-no for us. But at the end of the day, what you guys were talking about is a textbook example of this. I call it judicial game of chicken. He who runs out of money first loses, times 9,000. But at the end of the day, if you can play your game right, then you might end up being cited for contempt of court or what have you. But at the end of the day, you got the message out. I don't believe that you need to use violence or civil disobedience to get the message out when you actually have the wave at your back. I understand that the jury may have found against them, but I would argue that everybody started waking up. I mean, I saw what was going on almost a decade and a half ago, and Lawyer Chick, you're talking about it. I mean, imagine how many other lay people are looking at this as well.
Yeah, I think the water protectors in the Standing Rock protest did a couple positive things for the environmental rights movement, or at least young people. Definitely young people in Indian country were together in this intertribal gathering, speaking their language. I mean, I spoke to quite a few elders who were out there who were just so happy to see young people involved and again, speaking their native tongue and enjoying each other's company. Flo, are you coming back to say something? Okay, so I'm going to go on. So there was some benefits to that. And if Greenpeace had to go down for that, so be it. Ghosty.
Okay. So the Energy Transfer Company alleged unlawful and violent scheme to cause financial harm to Energy Transfer, physical harm to its employees and infrastructure, and to disrupt and prevent Energy Transfer's construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline. And I also agree, like, once you're damaging property or causing people physical harm, like, that's obviously past the line for protesting and everything. But I do, it's a rhetorical question, but to the people who agree with the lawsuit, I'm just curious what you guys think about the people who were arrested for the January 6th protests, because I see some similarities, because they are claiming that these people were out here protesting based on misinformation, which can be related to January 6th, with the Dominion voter machine frauds and all that. So people were out there like based on misinformation and stuff. They caused physical harm to some people, and interfering with official business. They delayed the vote, and here they interfered with the pipeline being built. So if you agree with this lawsuit and you disagree with all the January 6th stuff, I'm just a rhetorical question to ask yourself.
You're trying to bait me out, aren't you?
No, because I really don't want to have a January 6th debate, but
you want to have
I was actually
January...
I was going to jump in real quick and put my MAGA hat on for just 2 minutes. Ghosty, I think your name is, and I've seen you before on other streams. So you have great commentary, but I would have to agree with you. The thing though, however, is it's a lot more nuanced. And for the village idiots that were hitting the cops or busting down doors and breaking down windows, they deserve exactly the smoke that they got. But there were other people that were waved in. Jacob Chansley is a good example of that. And when those videos came out, I'm sorry, but when you're waved in by the cops, that completely defeats a trespassing charge, which is what he actually pled guilty to. And so it depends on, it's the same as the protest. It depends on each individual. Were you involved? Did you have an intent to disrupt the pipeline? If not, then don't come back. If you were involved just in protesting, but you weren't hell-bent on obstructing the official proceedings, or if the officers actually waved you in, okay, bye, don't come back. But if you were involved in some sort of violence or some sort of physical obstruction, then you get everything that's coming to you.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And go on.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I'm going to say I can share a short antidote. One criticism I have of the way the civil disobedience, like the minor arrests were handled during the Standing Rock protests, is that they came and they did train people. There were these training camps for people to go and sit at different parts of the pipeline and risk arrest, and some got arrested and some didn't. But what they didn't do was didn't really inform the young people who were out there getting arrested that this wasn't about treaty rights under the law. So what happened was a lot of young people were arrested for trespass under the state of North Dakota. And when it came time for their hearings and their trials, in the youth's mind, they were like, we're not going to plead guilty. We're not taking a plea. We're going to stand up for treaty rights. But it wasn't a treaty rights issue. And that wasn't, again, properly explained to them. When you do civil disobedience and this kind of thing, I think that should be very clear. However, I think, there was an element of bringing lots of young people. It was the cause to celebrate. It was very exciting. People were, like leaving their, the Rainbow Festival or whatever, the Rainbow Gathering, coming to Standing Rock. There was a lot of different types of people that started to come after a while. It wasn't just Native folks. But again, there were a lot of lawyers, volunteer lawyers, who were working for free to help all of the minor misdemeanor trespasses plea out. But in order to plea those cases, the kids had the youth, they were young, had to admit guilt on trespass, and then their records would be wiped clean. Maybe they had pay a fine. The Legal Water Protector Fund was paying the fines, no biggie. But I did speak to one woman's nephew who she wanted me to talk to because he was adamant about not pleading guilty. And I had to really explain to him, like, this isn't about treaty rights. And he kept saying, I'm violating my treaty rights. And I'm like, but this isn't a treaty case. So you're not pleading guilty to allowing them to be on your land. I don't know whatever happened with that young man, but I thought, man, they really didn't explain that to these youth who were out there getting arrested, like that you're risking a trespass, you're risking this, yes, in your mind, philosophically, we're about treaty rights. And another thing my Indigenous lawyer friend said today was that she's kind of critical of Greenpeace because their defense was just, we were nonviolent, we didn't have anything to do with it, But really, what she said is that to make it a bigger issue, it should have been argued on like an international law issue. So that doesn't hold weight necessarily, right? It doesn't hold weight, but she is a human rights attorney and she does that kind of divestment work with, Swiss Bank or whatever. So yeah, Juan's like shaking his head in pain, but she was annoyed because there was no mention of that. And in law, I don't know, I was taught that these are called creative defenses where, they're not going to hold weight, but they're creative and they put issues on the, out in the public. And so I just want to put that out there because I respect this particular attorney so much, and I want to make sure everything she told me today kind of comes out. But that was something else that she said, and she was again like on the ground there for quite a while. So, Ghosty, do you have anything else close out or any comments?
No, that was pretty much it. I guess just on the environmental issue, yeah, I just wish we did invest in how to move towards cleaner energy, and had actual people who weren't just so focused on the money. Obviously, there's money that comes with it, but if we could invest in those ways to move towards that direction, that's where my stance is. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for helping us out and being here on my first Restream on the Restream platform. Barnabas, Midlife for Logic, thank you for coming out. I really appreciate it. What you have to say, sir?
The pipeline never went through their property. And this is always, and even Lawyer Chick disagrees, but it's just read it. It never went through their property unless you go back to some 1851 Fort Laramie treaty. And also maybe there's some type of water rights or water easement or some type of something, but it never was on their property. They were invading someone else's space. That being said, I wouldn't want a pipeline running through my backyard either. So it's not that I'm unsympathetic towards this. Apparently the protest went on for 10 months. How long does it take to run a pipeline that's not making money for 10 months? And they had to drain the oil out of it at some point? And you have to hire lawyers to fight all these people? I don't know how much that costs, but I bet it's a lot. Does it cost $600 million? I don't know. So is it a slap lawsuit? You know, I'm just not smart enough to determine that, but I hope that my First Amendment is not taken away. And on that note, I must say, Beak, shout out to you, my dude. Super chat. I certainly appreciate it. It's I'm restreaming Lawyer Chick's channel, so make sure you subscribe to Lawyer Chick. And I think she sees the light at the end of the 100 sub tunnel. So let's push
I'm
it
at
to the limit
85
tonight, right? Can we get 5 quick subs right off the top? That's how I feel. Interesting case. I don't know what's going to happen.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I really, really appreciate it. And I want to finish with just one short video, please, if you don't mind. You know what it is. Stand by, and then we'll close it out. I can't stop watching it.
Lorax.
I can't stop watching it. Flip, I'm going to convert you. You know it. Here you go. My childhood propaganda.
Almost got him.
I speak for the trees. Let them grow. Let them grow. But nobody listens too much, don't you know?
Don't you know?
I speak for the trees, and I'll yell and I'll shout for the fine things on earth that are on their way out.
For the fine things on earth that are on their way out.
So much propaganda. Those trees never requested the Lorax speak for them.
They can't talk. They have no voice. They have no tongue. The trees have no tongue.
I speak for the trees. They're like, get the Lorax out of here. We're tired of them.
I highly recommend the Butter Battle book as well. It's a book about nuclear war, more propaganda. It's a sleeper of a Dr. Seuss book. It's called the Butter Battle book. Yeah, so
for those of you that have kids, watch Ferngully.
I remember, Ferngully's pure propaganda. That's crazy.
I love it. Well, everybody, thank you so much. I guess we'll just end the stream now, and I'm gonna put everybody back and say thank you. I guess.
Thank you.
Yes, y'all can jump off. I really appreciate it so much. Let's see. Good night.
All right. I don't think I can get my camera up on here right now, so because it's gonna be all difficult. But yeah, I was on a panel before this too. So tomorrow night I am going to be on another panel, the same panel I was on earlier tonight, which I didn't stream. So I might stream a little bit of it tomorrow night. He said we can only stream like the first hour or so, and then you can head over to his channel to watch the rest of the show. So yeah, it'll be 3 white people, 3 black people talking about racial issues tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Should be interesting. So thanks for watching, everybody, and hopefully I'll have some more streams coming up soon too. I do have a couple ideas. I had to take a break for a little bit, a little mental break, and I've been doing some other hobbies and stuff like that. So, but I want to start streaming again. So I will catch you guys soon. And again, I'll be on tomorrow night at 5 p.m.